Hello, this is Phil Jones again. I'm going to skip over the first part. I'm hoping that you've at least seen these. As I scroll through, you can look at the purpose. You can also look and be reminded of how to use this video. Very, very important that you follow these instructions, but I will not repeat them for the 99th time because this is about the 5th video that we've done. Okay, first of all, as we look at the ER and IR verbs, I just need to remind you of the general properties of verbs in the present tense. You saw this a couple of videos ago in the AR verb description. If you need a reminder, the general properties of present tense verbs work very, very similarly. As the subject of the verb changes, so does the verb. Now, technically in English it does also, but the ending changes every single time that the subject changes in Spanish. There are, as you know, 3 types of verbs in Spanish: AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. For right now, our purposes, we are focusing on regular AR, ER, and IR verbs, except when we get to tener, and that's going to be just slightly irregular. But trust me, there are other verbs that are also irregular. So for right now, the ones we're focusing on are ER and IR regular verbs, with the exception of tener. Okay, and I've intentionally chosen a different one than the book chose, that hopefully you've gone through and read, and it is the verb comprender. And I chose this because people, there's a carryover from English. People sometimes will want to say comprehendo. There is no h sound in there. It is comprendo. Notice what I've done here. I put the part that you take off in red, the ER, and I put the parts that you add in here in black. So, first person, yo comprendo. It is possible, again, not to say the yo form, because if you say comprendo, you know you're talking about yo. Tú comprendes, él comprende, ella comprende, usted comprende. If you had a person's name in here, or a person's title, this is where it would go. Michael comprende. Mary comprende. La profesora comprende. One person that you're using the name for instead of the subject pronoun. Nosotros, if you are included. So if you say Mary and I, the students and I, nosotros comprendemos. Vosotros is the Spain form, as you know. It's you all, as they say in Spain. Vosotros comprendéis. And finally, they, using guys only, they using girls, ellas, are mixed form, ellos, are Latin American, ustedes comprenden. Okay, that's pretty easy. Regular ER verbs conjugate that way. IR verbs, and again, I've intentionally chosen a different verb than the book has, escribir, and you will notice it is very, very similar to both AR and ER verbs, more like ER verbs. Escribir means to write. Yo escribo, tú escribes, él escribe, ella escribe, usted escribe. Nosotros escribimos. Vosotros escribís. Ellos escriben. Sorry, my dogs are fighting, and I had to pop at them, okay? But again, you can see where the red IR comes off and the black endings go on. If you will make a habit of it, especially if you're having difficulty conjugating the verbs, of removing those last 2 letters and intentionally adding the other ones, it will help you, I believe. And then finally, on page 68 is the verb, I'm sorry, that's not right, not 68, page 66, the verb tener. Tener means to have. It is slightly irregular in that it has a stem change. Stem meaning the inside part. Tengo, I have. Tú tienes, you have. Él tiene, ella tiene, usted tiene. Nosotros tenemos, notice what happens. The stem no longer changes in this one. It goes back to being a regular ER verb. Same thing with the vosotros form, tenéis. Ellos tienen, ellas tienen, ustedes tienen. Again, notice the endings there, and notice where the stem changes. I think I've told you in class, these sometimes are referred to as boot verbs or shoe verbs. So if you outline the parts that do not have the stem change, you would see something that would kind of slightly look like a shoe. That may help, it may not. Use it if you need to. And then finally, with the verb tener, besides meaning to have, it has other idiomatic expressions, meaning that it says things that don't make sense in the target language. And in our language, when you use some of these tener verbs, such as on page 66, it may or may not make a whole lot of sense. For example, if you're hot, temperature-wise, you say I'm hot. It's hot in here. In Spanish, it is I have calor. I have heat. So it's kind of, you get at the same point, means the same thing, except there's a different way of saying it. That's why it's called an idiomatic expression. Commit those to memory. All right. To have patience, and by the way, if you will think about them the way that they are phrased in Spanish, it may help you. So in other words, if in English I want to say to someone, please be patient, in Spanish I know that it is have patience, if I'll think about it like that. Or if I think about saying I have fear instead of I am afraid, then I will likely use the verb tener miedo instead of the verb soy miedo. That doesn't make sense in Spanish, and it is incorrect. Two other uses of the verb tener ganas de, I feel like doing something. And I've gone through and conjugated a few of these just so that you can see how it works. Obviously in the sentences you're going to take the plus out because that doesn't stay in there. I put those in for illustrative purposes only. Tengo ganas de comer pizza. Notice that ganas never changes. It is not something that you conjugate. The verb de does not change. And this one stays in the infinitive form, and it depends on what you feel like doing. This one, however, does conjugate according to the subject. Tengo ganas de comer pizza. Tenemos ganas de comer pizza. We feel like eating pizza. Él tiene ganas de comer pizza. He feels like eating pizza. So again, from here back, it doesn't change. This one depends on whatever you feel like doing, and this one changes according to the subject of the verb. Very, very similarly, when you have to say, I have to do something in Spanish, tener que works the same way. I caution you. Look at the first two here. These are not, the stem doesn't change there, but here it is él tiene. But again, I put the pluses in there so that for illustration purposes, tengo que estudiar mucho. I have to study a lot. Tenemos que estudiar mucho. Notice that the verb changes here. However, these do not change. Que never changes. Whatever it is that you have to do changes, but it stays in the infinitive form. And that's the way those work. Hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer for you if you can remember that particular structure. All right, let's take a second and practice some of these. If you will look with me, please, on page 65, la página 65. And again, pause me as we go through. I believe if you pause me, it will help you if you process these. Looking at the first one, José, mi compañero de cuarto, y yo, and the verb given is vivir. And of course, you know that at any time you're included in someone else's the nosotros form. So please think of your answer. And it should be vivimos. Number two, nosotros directly, you're told what the subject pronoun is. Think of your answer. Asistimos a. Okay? And this is one of those two-word verbs in Spanish. Asistir a means to attend. Todos los días, él blank noticias de su familia. Think about that one. Should have written in recibe. That's a subject pronoun. Even if it had said Michael, it would still be recibe because Michael, he falls in the same place in the chart there. Su hermana, número 4. Su hermana, it writes many emails, or writes a lot by email. Verb is escribir. Escribe, okay? So, his sister, or she, same place there. Número 4, a veces yo. I read. And that was a little bit tricky because in essence you take the ER off, you leave one of the E's, and you add an O back on it. I know that it probably sounds a little strange the first couple of times you do it, but trust me, it is correct. And finally, my grandparents believe, mis abuelos believe, que las computadoras son importantes. Okay? The verb is creer. And hopefully you found out that one was creer. You take the ER off and you add an EN back on. Alright, looking on page 67, let's do a couple of these. And I specifically targeted some in English that I want you to think about how you would say in Spanish. Today in the afternoon, you're given that phrase, hoy por la tarde. I feel like dancing, but I have to work. So take a moment, pause me if you need to, but you need to go back to tengo ganas de, pero tengo que. And it would look something like this. Okay. Hoy por la tarde tengo ganas de bailar. This is the tener plus the ganas plus the de plus the infinitive, and tengo plus the que plus the infinitive. Tengo que trabajar. Okay. Hopefully you see how that one works. And then tonight, sorry about that. I feel like drinking coffee with a friend, but I have to study. I feel like drinking coffee with a friend, but I have to study. Okay. So you've given the first word in the book. Esta noche. And again, following the format, pause me if you need to. It should be, tengo ganas de tomar café con un amigo, pero tengo que estudiar en la biblioteca. All right, and those are the way those work. All right, I'm going to give you a little bit of additional practice with something from studyspanish.com. So let me take you there. Close your book now if you need to, or put it back to the pages that that you know that this information is on. All right, let me see if I can adjust this just a little bit to get us the best view in there. And we're going to generate a unique quiz using ER verbs. We're only going to do ER verbs for time purposes. I'm trying to keep these at around 15 minutes. And so we're going to do 10 questions. We're not going to include the vosotros form. Okay? So, here we got. And correr, Arsenio and Ricardo, two people. Hopefully you come up with. Corren en la calle. That's they, ellos. María and Juan. Cometen pocos errores. And I just made an error. Cometen, I left out the E. Cometen pocos errores. Los hombres, the guys, beben vino del vaso, drink wine from the glass. Nosotras, girls, we, using that form, debemos una visita. And again, hopefully you're pausing me before you're just listening to me give this. Tú lees la novela, you read the novel. Tú comprendes mucho. Yo como en el comedor. Nosotros corremos cada mañana. María y yo. Remember, another person in you gets the nosotros form. That is exactly right. Corremos cada mañana. La señora y yo aprendemos a cocinar. And I'm about to grade my quiz, but I just realized that this website will actually create Spanish quizzes. I didn't realize that before, so that might be a useful tool for you. And hopefully we got 100%, which we did. All right, good deal. So let's go to one more. I'm sorry, I don't have another one on here for you. You know, we've kept it under 15 minutes. There is one here with Kia, and that one actually uses some of the tener que expression and tener ganas de, so that would be a good one to practice. It will give you your score there also. And then the YouTube one that I've chosen for you is from Tontito Frito, and he explains the uses of the verb tener, specifically tener que and tener ganas de. So for another explanation of that, you can go to Tontito Frito. Appreciate your attention, and I hope this has helped. And we will stop at this one, and we will see you in chapter 3.